Hello everyone and welcome to the special edition of ETC3 TV. I'm Christy Lindstrom. Today's program is part of a 5-part series. It's the 4th show, and the series is entitled Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay. Now we're doing something special this week. Typically we air this program the 3rd Thursday of each month, but we're doing 2 shows this week. Today we are live in our studio and again on Thursday at 3 o'clock. Today's focus is mental health and drug use, and we have a lot of very special guests, and so we did not want to cut any of our guests short, so we're doing our program today as well as our program on Thursday at 3 o'clock. Now, this show is part of a mental health awareness campaign in Fannin County. It's the initiative of Fannin County Family Connection and other supporting organizations, and those include the Blue Ridge Community Theater, the Fannin County Division of Family and Children's Services, Fannin County Public Library, Highland Rivers Health, the North Georgia Autism Foundation, the North Georgia Crisis Network, and the Craddock Center. According to the Georgia Department of Public Health, there are a lot of statistics that I want to share with you today about drug use and opioid use. A nationwide opioid epidemic started in the 1990s with increased opioid prescribing and opioid overdose deaths. From 2010 to 2020, the total number of opioid-related overdose deaths in Georgia increased by 207%. In October of 2017, the opioid crisis was declared a national public health emergency. And in 2020, 67% of drug overdose deaths in Georgia were related to opioids. On today's program, we will learn more about what opioids are, addiction, preventative measures, and recovery. And to access services and immediate crisis help, we want you to know the Georgia Crisis and Access Line is available to help you. It's available 24/7 at 1-800-715-4225. My special guests today are Suzanne Davenport. She is the owner and pharmacist of Southern Drug Company in Blue Ridge, and also Carrie Thomas. Carrie is a nurse, and she has been free from opioid addiction since June of 2017. Ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we wanted to do this particular program because there's that direct link between drug use or opioid use and mental health. And thank you both for being here today. And Suzanne, I want to start with you. If people are watching and they don't understand what an opioid is, in general, what is it?
So an opioid is a medication that's derived from the opium plant, poppy seed plant, and it is a medication that's used to decrease pain.
And why would one prescribe it, or why would a doctor prescribe it? What are the levels of pain in which an opioid enters the picture?
Usually it's for an acute or a short-term condition, whether it's a dental pain, if you've had a baby, if you've had a surgery. Those are usually why they begin prescribing them. It's usually something that's happened in an acute setting, and you do need pain relief.
And what are these drugs called? Just the general category is opioids, but what are some of the names that we might be familiar, that we've heard of?
So some of the common names are morphine, hydrocodone, hydromorphone, oxycodone, OxyContin. Those are some of the more common names we see.
And these aren't always prescribed by a doctor. I was doing some research, and according to the Office of National Drug Control Policy, individuals get these drugs not just through the legal means of a doctor coming to the pharmacist, getting their prescription, but they are getting them by doctor shopping. These are some of the things that it says, doctor shopping or other prescription fraud. Tell me about what that is.
So doctor shopping is when they're going to multiple doctors. Pharmacy shopping is when they're going to multiple pharmacies. We have people that do not need these pain medicines, that are not taking all of them, that sell them on the streets. And there are also illegal forms of opioids like heroin that are available. They're very dangerous though, and sometimes they are combined with other opioids like fentanyl, which cause severe respiratory depression and sometimes can even cause death.
And so illegal online pharmacies occur? They're out there?
They are out there. It's a little more rare. Most people obtain opioids through local sources, is what we find. People have extras. Their grandparents have extras. They had surgery and they only took 2 and they've got 20 left or 100 left. So, you know, your friend will say, hey, can I have those? And that's a bad start to an opioid addiction.
Other ways it says that drugs are gotten illegally through theft and burglary, and you've experienced that at your own pharmacy.
We have. We did have a break-in, and it was very detrimental to just our workflow process. We meet all the DEA's regulations and safety measures for a pharmacy, but they are very smart. These people who break in are professionals. So it's very detrimental, especially when they get controlled substances. Those drugs are out on the street, and it's just an increased risk of someone overdosing or even a child overdosing, which is one of our major concerns.
And there are databases that you have that are those built-in safeguards, right?
Yes.
Tell me about
that. So the prescription monitoring program is available, and it's available in every state. So any controlled substance that is filled, we can see anything that's been filled as long as it's been about 24 hours. Anything in Georgia, anything in Tennessee, North Carolina, we can look it up on the database and see where it's been filled, the quantity, the day's supply. We have all the information. So this really prevents doctor shopping and pharmacy shopping.
And for you as a pharmacist, if you see this happening, or I don't know, to put you on the spot a little bit, if you see common practices of a doctor of an overprescribing nature, what type of position does that put you in as a pharmacist, or what do you do? What can you do?
So the overprescribing of doctors has really decreased. The CDC has put out guidelines for them, which we have seen a dramatic decrease in prescribing practices. But as far as patients, a lot of times they'll get a prescription from their doctor, and then they'll go to the emergency room, or they'll go to multiple doctors. So it's more of a case of multiple doctors. We call the doctors, we let them know, you know, Ms. Smith is filling this prescription with us. She's also filling it at another pharmacy down the road. And then we ask them what they want to do in that situation.
So there's a communication that goes on with the medical offices that you work with?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. And I guess in general, if we could make a blanket statement, you talked about from the beginning about why opioids are prescribed. It's pain regulation?
It is, yes.
Okay. And Carrie, I wanted to talk to you because I am so grateful that you're here today to share your story. I think this is the first time you've publicly shared your story. And your use of opioids goes back to a car accident that you had. Take me back to that time.
So that's correct. It was 2007. I had gotten up that morning to go to work, and it had rained a little bit, and just some slick roads, and had a car accident. Didn't really think anything of it. Didn't have any really visible injuries or anything. But after that, I began having some back pain, back issues. And when we investigated, did an MRI, found out I had a herniated disc. So I went through a lot of treatment to try to help with that, but ended up needing some back surgery. So that began a series of back surgeries. I ended up having three different procedures over the course of 2 years. And in the process of all that, I was prescribed quite large doses of pain medication. And then it got to be a problem. It got out of control. I was being legally prescribed pain medication, but then I began to, because the nature of my work, I had access to opioids at work, and I began to divert waste doses. Sometimes we don't give a whole dose of something to a patient, and you have a waste left over, and so I began to divert that medication for my own use. And so this rocked on for several years. I actually bounced around to several different employers because of it. My work performance was not great because of this addiction.
Now, were you trying to outrun anybody finding out about this addiction, or why did you move around?
Absolutely. Not only was I trying to kind of outrun it, but I was also just trying to cover my tracks, so to speak, I guess. But like, I would have work performance issues, absenteeism. Now, one of the things that I would do was volunteer to pick up extra shifts, and you know, people would say that I was a model nurse when I was at work, but I, you know, wanted to be there as much as I could. But then there were other times where, you know, I just couldn't make it into work, so it became a problem with my work performance and that kind of thing. And eventually, I did get caught. And my employer was very gracious and allowed me the opportunity to self-report. And I was working in the state of Tennessee at that time. So I did report myself to the agency in Tennessee. It's called Tennessee Professional Assistance Program. And they will set you up with a rehab facility to go to and help you get the help you need to overcome the addiction. Their program, once you begin with them, it lasts, depending on what's happening. Some people have different lengths of their contracts, but I had a 3-year contract with them. And during that 3-year period, I had to do a daily check-in, and they would tell me that I was getting a random drug test that day, different various types of tests. I usually averaged a test about every 2 or 3 weeks. So I did that. One of the other stipulations of their program was I had to attend 12-step meetings. So I had to do 2 12-step meetings a week. And then I also had to do a support group. The support group was other medical professionals. There were physical therapists in that group with me. There was a doctor in the group with me, several nurses. They were all in there for various issues. Some of them were addiction issues like me. Some of them had problems with alcohol, DUIs, things like that. But they do everything that they can to help you recover and come out of this and be able to keep your nursing license and keep moving on. And I'm very grateful for that program.
And how long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse, this is my 21st year. And I've mainly worked in surgery, but I have worked quite a bit of ER too. And so ER was where I ran into my troubles at, because it was a lot more readily available there. So.
And as a nurse, you know, because you are constantly educating and encouraging patients to take care of themselves. Was there ever a time mentally, or did the medicine take over, that there was that mental conflict between you educating yourself? I mean, you knew what this might potentially do to you.
At one point, I felt like I had a problem, and my primary care physician, who was prescribing my monthly dosages, I went to him and I said, I think I have a problem. And he just basically shrugged it off and said, no, you've got back pain. You need to take this medicine. You know, I know that you're in pain. And so I guess from that point, I felt like I was justified in continuing. And so, you know, I struggled with that for a long time.
But you yourself had a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have said on this program over and over, whether it's with our health or our mental health, we're the only ones who really know what's happening in our bodies. And so when we have that red flag, in retrospect, what should you have done?
I probably, you know, if I had it to do over again, I probably would go and maybe see another doctor, or I would have sought help for my problem at that point, because I felt like it fell on deaf ears at that point, you know, and that he was only going to let me continue down the road that I was on. So,
And Carrie and I were talking, Suzanne, before the program, and I was asking her, and this is when we talk about what addiction is in mental health. So I've had a couple surgeries. I've been diagnosed medication, but I did not like that feeling of being out of control. I just wanted to experience the pain, deal with it, and get on the other side of it. But it took hold, the drugs took hold of Carrie's life. What is the difference between her and me when it comes to addiction?
Everyone's just individual, so it's hard to say what the difference is. It's really just up to you, your determination to not take it. I feel like Carrie, though, she had pain, so she wanted to control that, and then it just got out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a question for you.
Yes.
So if your pharmacist would have pulled you aside when you were filling your prescription and said, hey, would you ever like to get off of these? Do you think that might have helped you?
I absolutely think it would have helped me.
Okay.
Yes. I think that once I got to a certain point, they just kind of got used to seeing me. Mm-hmm. But and we were talking, before we started about the pain clinics and things, how they just give out lots of opioids, and it's like they don't really do much to try to help you stop. And so I think that would really be a big help if somebody had said, hey, would you like to try to stop this? Because I think I did a good job of hiding my addiction very well, and most people do.
And you mentioned too, when we were having our conversation before the show, that you had some other mental health related things that were going on with you, mm-hmm. and the opioids help you with that. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that?
So I struggle with anxiety and depression, and the opioids were a way for me to numb out from that. And the treatment center that I went to, fortunately, specialized in dual diagnosis with mental health and opioid addiction. And I got to sit through classes and learn about how that is definitely related. And how the opioid addiction becomes a chemical thing in your brain. When you get that high, then your brain, releases, you got the endorphin release, and your body thrives off of that. Your body will get to the point where it will fake you in, or make you think that you're in pain, just so you'll keep taking the medication so that you can get that high and get that endorphin rush.
And you said to me that once you came off the medication, you thought you were going to need it, but...
I was very surprised that I was pretty much pain-free after I was able to overcome the need for it.
So once the brain piece got turned off, mm-hmm. you realized you didn't really need it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And since your diagnosis, since your recovery from the opioid addiction, you've had to have some surgery since then.
Yes. About a year ago, I had a surgery, and I was prescribed some pain medication then. I was really surprised that they only gave me about 10 of them to go home with. So I was grateful for that. And I was a little bit scared at first. I wasn't sure how I was going to react to needing to take some pain medication, and I did need the pain medication. But at this point, I had learned more about my addiction and how to use that medication responsibly and not go down that path again.
And Suzanne, you've said that there's sort of that shift in prescribing, mm-hmm. that the dosages, instead of maybe a full bottle that we may think of, those numbers are coming down, right?
Mm-hmm. According to CDC recommendations and other prescribing stops they've put on prescribing, or insurance, I guess, has put a hold on how much they will pay for. So they will usually only pay for a 7-day supply if you're what's called opioid naive, which means you are not used to having opioids in your system. This prevents you getting addicted to the medications. So if you've had a surgery, you your insurance will only probably pay for a 7-day supply, then you would lose the other tablets, unfortunately. But it's really changed prescribing practices, and now we're seeing more prescribers only give a 7-day supply. Instead of 120 tablets, they'll give 20 tablets or 30 tablets. So it's definitely geared more towards an acute use more than a setup for an addiction and failure use, which is not what they intended. It's just now that it's all come to light, they've had to change their practices, and they're prescribing because of all the issues that have come from giving people too many opioids.
And what was happening in the 90s, or what happened to cause all of this prescription?
Well, just I think loose prescribing was a lot of it. And I don't know if we understood addiction back then like we do now. So many people now are on pain medications, and you know that they have a use. They are good for what they're good for, you know, for pain relief. But it's when you have an addiction and that develops, that's the problem. But back in the 90s, I mean, I remember seeing some prescriptions for family. You know, it would come through for a large amount of narcotics and opioids for, you know, conditions that didn't need them. So, you know, just I think loose prescribing, and not to say anything about prescribers, but education has really changed that.
And what type of education?
Just CDC cracking down, Georgia Drug and Narcotics, and all the FDA, Georgia, and the DEA. It's really gotten so much press lately that everyone is really aware of what's going on, and so everyone's working to decrease the lives lost and decrease the addiction.
And I think through this campaign we have learned that there are some issues that just people in general, when you talk, they say that these aren't issues in our community. We don't have these kinds of problems. You know, we're a second home community. Our real estate market is booming. People want to move into our community. So we don't really want to be known as a community that has an issue with opioids or drugs or any kind of something that could be conceived as negative. But we do have a problem in our own community, right?
We do, unfortunately. And it's not a problem that is affecting outsiders, the people that move in, as much as it is just people, it's affecting themselves. So unfortunately, there have been several people in the past few months that have passed away from opioid use. One of the major things we see is when they go to recovery and say they go to a party and they are peer pressured into taking a drug again, and they take the same dose that they had taken back before they went to recovery, and they overdose because their body was not tolerant to that dose of medication. This is when we see that people end up not surviving overdoses, and that is a major problem. And it's unfortunate because they have tried to recover and try to get better and go through rehab, and then, you know, one slip can cause just major setbacks or even death. So I think it's important to educate those that have gone through recovery that this can happen. So if you are tempted to take a drug at a party or with your friends or whatever's going on, that you take a really low dose, because you can't tolerate the same dose you took when you were in full addiction.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about the safeguards that you've implemented in your own pharmacy. You had mentioned to me something about Narcan and your education that comes with prescribing an opioid to someone who walks into Southern Drug Company. So tell me about that.
So if you have a prescription for an opioid, we calculate a milligram morphine equivalent. You want it to be under a certain amount, but most prescribers these days are under a certain amount, the recommended limits. But we also recommend Narcan, and having that on hand. You can get Narcan without a prescription, but a lot of pain medications come with a Narcan prescription because it is such a problem. So Narcan can be used for anyone in your home. So if you accidentally drop a tablet of an opioid and a child picks it up, and you suspect that child of an overdose, you can give that child Narcan. And the children are the ones that really just breaks my heart if something happens to them. But I highly recommend Narcan in a home that has opioids, because you never know, no matter how safe you are, there's still a chance that a child could get a hold of that medication, or if you're a grandparent, a teenager could go through your medicine cabinet. That's a big problem right now. So we do try to educate our patients on Narcan use. And it is not free, like some things say on Facebook, but a lot of insurances do pay for it now.
Okay. Well, we appreciate what you do there to educate your patients as they come in, so that when they leave with that medicine, they understand the implications to themselves or anybody around them if they get a hold of that medication.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're going to take a break. We've already talked for half an hour. I told you it'd go quickly. And we will be back on this edition of Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay, right here on ETC in just a moment, so stay with us.
Whether you're in the mood for chicken strips, a delicious burger, our classic banana split, or an upside-down thick blizzard treat, we've got you covered. Hot and fresh food every day, every time. And delicious DQ soft serve make the perfect pair at your favorite place. Not fast food, fan food fast. Your Blue Ridge, Ellijay, and Jasper Dairy Queens are your meet, eat, and treat headquarters.
Thank you for choosing DQ. How may I serve you?
This country was built on self-reliance. Our fathers and grandfathers knew when something was broken, they should know how to fix it. Here at Luttrell's Hardware, we believe in the old-fashioned way. We believe you shouldn't have to drive out of town, and you darn sure shouldn't have to do it twice. Most importantly, we believe our customers should be like family. So come see us here at Luttrell's on Highway 68 in Copper Hill. Let's roll up our sleeves and make this country great again.
ETC knows the internet is evolving, taking new twists and turns. As we add our input, make our choices, and follow the light that connects us all. It's quite a journey, one to experience with the fastest speeds available. Contact ETC, connect to the internet speed that suits your journey, and enjoy the ride.
Welcome back, everyone, to Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay. This is an initiative of Fannin County Family Connection and many supporting organizations who want to break the stigma that surrounds mental health and open up the conversation to share resources that are available to you, or maybe in some areas a lack of resources. And today we are so happy to have two women that are sharing their stories today. Suzanne Davenport, she is the pharmacist and owner of Southern Drug Company in Blue Ridge, and also Carrie Thomas, who has battled opioid addiction, and now you're on the other side of that. and 20 years you've given service, or 21 years of service as a nurse. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as we were sharing to our Facebook audience during the break, I want to just let people know more about who you are. Suzanne, you have had a long line of entrepreneurship in your family, starting with your parents or back beyond that to your grandmother. Tell me about your family.
So my grandmother, Christine Davis, owned the Tasty Freeze down in McKaysville. And then my parents are John and Sandy Stepp, and they own the Diamond Center in Blue Ridge. And they're going to have a ladies' night Thursday, so if anyone wants to go and get a wish list going,
There you go.
it's a good thing to do.
Good plug, yes.
And so it's just a long line of independent businesses, and they really encouraged me to go to pharmacy school and not do jewelry. I don't know what they were thinking. And no, I love being a pharmacist, but it was always my dream to open a pharmacy, and somehow we made it happen. And it is just wonderful. We love being in the community, being here in our hometown and just serving it's just amazing.
And if we can take a break just from a second of the topic of opioids, I'll ask you, how did your business pivot during the pandemic? A lot of things have changed, and I kind of watched you evolve and pivot on Facebook with some of your practices. Tell me about that.
Well, I am telling my staff now that we all have to be adaptable because every day is different. Instead of our business being slower, we are actually busier. And we're very thankful for that. Between COVID vaccines and COVID testing, we have really tried to be there for the community to provide those services. We have hired more people. We've had an increase in prescription volume. It's been really great that people are trusting us with their prescriptions. I really appreciate that.
And did you set out from the very beginning to do your home delivery service of medications, or did that evolve during the pandemic?
It was something we offered initially, and we still offer, but during the pandemic, we did see an increase in prescriptions being delivered, and now we do offer at-home COVID vaccines and flu shots. If people need those, I will go to their homes and administer those for them. We've had an increase in that this year, definitely.
And there was even a time during the pandemic, I remember, to the height of the pandemic, you were delivering whatever they referred to as necessities, right? You were taking groceries and other things into people's homes through your pharmacy.
We did. We had a few people who needed groceries and couldn't get out and were scared, and we had some people who would do their shopping and take food to them.
And your sister is also in medicine, your brother-in-law, your husband. Tell me about all those folks.
So my sister, Elizabeth Patton, is at North Georgia Family Medicine with Dr. Gary. She's in Blairsville, and she helps with their urgent care on Mondays and Tuesdays. My brother-in-law is Dr. Jordan Patton. He owns Blue Ridge Mountain Ophthalmology, so he's an ophthalmologist in town. And then my husband's a paramedic, so I've got him working at the pharmacy too, though. He's a jack of all trades.
Well, we appreciate you coming back to the community. And why was that important to you too? Because you could be anywhere.
Well, I love Blue Ridge. Everyone does. But I guess just growing up here, we've been here for generations, for probably over 150 years. Our family has deep roots here. And just knowing so many people in the community, it's so nice to have that camaraderie and that involvement in where you grew up. It's just, I don't think it's replaceable. So Blue Ridge was the only place I could see myself coming, really.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
And Carrie, you talked in the break about why you chose nursing as your career. Tell us that story again for television.
I really didn't have any aspirations of going to college up through high school, and about the last 3 months I thought, well, I better figure out something to do with my life. So took an inventory test that asked all kinds of questions and told me I should either be a funeral director or a nurse, and I had a really strong nursing influence from a mentor growing up, and she was really good to me, and I thought that I would choose that path, and I'm really glad I did. I really enjoy being a nurse. I work in surgery at Erlanger in Chattanooga, and everybody says I'm crazy for that drive, but I love living in Blue Ridge, so I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world. So.
And if you had a message to anybody that's out there watching, the purpose of this show and this series is to kind of break the stigma, to let people know that they're not alone if they're struggling. If there's a medical provider out there of any type, or whether it's a doctor or nurse, you mentioned that in your that program that you went through, your 3-year program, that there were doctors and nurses alongside you. If there's somebody watching who's out there struggling, what would you say to them?
Well, the biggest thing that I think I took away from all of this is that we have this stereotypical drug addict personality built up in our brain. You know, who is the typical drug addict, and
so what everybody just in general perceives what they think a drug addict is. Is that
what a drug addict looks like? But it can happen to anybody. It does not discriminate. It is, it's not like you wake up one morning and decide you're just going to start, using. In my case, it evolved from, legal prescriptions, but it really can take over and happen to anybody. And I would say that if you feel like you have a problem, just like I had that red flag moment, where I talked to my PCP, that, don't wait to try to get help for it. Because the longer that you are addicted, the harder it is to come off of it. The withdrawal symptoms are a lot worse. So the sooner that you get help, the better chance you have of recovering and staying sober.
And what were those withdrawals? What all did you experience?
Well, at first I just really wanted to sleep, and then I got GI upset and sweating, shakes, stuff like that. Fortunately, the treatment center that I was at was able to give me something to help with that, a drug called Subutex. I believe that's the correct. But they gave us that, and once you got through about 4 or 5 days, they removed that then, and you were on your own to kind of work through that. So it was hard. The first week or so was really hard, but once you get through it, it's so much better on the other side.
But Suzanne, didn't you say that sometimes some of the drugs that are prescribed to help someone with an addiction can also create additional problems?
Yes, it can. So we do see abuse in Subutex and Suboxone. It is a known abused medication.
So you're trying to fix a problem with another potentially addictive drug.
But a lot of times it's the street drugs that they're off of. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
It's a little more controlled environment.
And Carrie, you gave me some information about how to find the programs. Can you just tell us again, if there's somebody watching, whether they're in Georgia or Tennessee, because you said that the Georgia program, if you what is it again?
Self-report.
If you self-report the Georgia program.
The Georgia program, I believe, is a 5-year program.
Okay.
And so because Tennessee offered the option of a 3-year program, I went that route. But Tennessee, it's called Tennessee Professional Assistance Program. And they have a website that you can go to. It's tnpap.org. The Georgia program is the Georgia Nurses Association Professional Assistance Program, and I don't recall their website, but
it's georgianurses.nursingnetwork.com.
Okay.
So georgianurses.nursingnetwork.com. So if anybody out there that is a nurse finds themselves,
they're very helpful. But I contacted both programs, and they're very, very helpful. They want you to succeed. They want you to do anything that you can to, keep your professional license. It doesn't matter. The Tennessee program is for all medical professionals. It doesn't matter if it's doctors, nurses, physical therapists, whoever. I'm not sure about Georgia as far as, but I'm sure there are resources in Georgia that you could probably just Google or something. But that they want you to succeed. They want to keep you, and I'm very fortunate for that. So.
And what was that conversation like when you just had that moment that I have to self-report, I have to tell my employer, I know you were worried about losing your job. Like what happened to say, like, this is the moment and I have to do this now?
My CNO at the hospital called me at home and asked me to come talk to her. And it was in that moment that I knew exactly what was up, what she wanted to talk to me about. I knew I was caught. So I looked at it in two ways, that I could have went kicking and screaming, or I could have, just gave up and got the help that I need. So I walked in her office that morning. She said, "Hey, Carrie, how are you doing?" And I said, "I'm not doing good." And she said, "Why do you say that?" And I said, "I have a problem." She said, "I'm so glad to hear you say that." She said, "I want to help you get the help you need." And she was very, very kind to me. So we got on her computer in her office that morning and started, looking for the resources that I needed. And she helped me report to the state. And they have an intake person that asks you all kinds of questions, and they will set you up with a treatment facility that's near you, that's convenient for you, and they give you a lot of options where that's concerned.
And so did the intervention of your boss, did that help to forego any legal action? Because there could have been, right?
Well, in the process of this, a patient did end up lodging a complaint against me to the state of Tennessee. And so the state nursing board did investigate me. But because I was transparent and forthcoming with information and told them exactly what I had done, and they were very lenient with me on that. A lot of people sometimes will end up with a fine or something like that, but my nursing license was put on probation for the 3-year duration of the program when I was in that program. The first year I couldn't handle narcotics, so I did work in a different kind of setting then. I worked in a plasma donation clinic for that time. I was very grateful for that job and that employer. But then once my narcotic restriction was lifted, I was able to go back into working in a hospital setting, and my employer there has been just fantastic. My supervisor is a great person, very understanding, and part of the program required that my employer also report to the state every quarter. So they always did that for me and were very complimentary of my progress and that kind of stuff. So I say this all the time, that I'm very, very grateful for that program, and I feel like that whole thing, being able to be structured like that, it saved my life.
I have a question for you. Did you feel like when you accepted help, did you feel like you were being judged?
In a way, yes. Okay. At first, I really wanted to keep it hush-hush and quiet. I didn't want anybody to know where I was going, what I was doing. I made my family keep quiet about it. I wouldn't let them tell anybody where I was at, that kind of thing. But then, as time went on and I was able to talk to people, I found that being transparent about my experience held me to be more, it's an accountability thing. I feel like people are always watching me now, and I feel like that that has been a great reason that I have been able to maintain recovery.
I have a lot of questions of people who come in and they don't want to fill their prescriptions because they feel like they're going to be judged. And from a pharmacist's perspective, it's not our job to judge. We do have to be careful with prescriptions, of course, narcotics and early fills and what's being filled, but it is not our job to judge. So if you're needing recovery, if you need help and you come into our pharmacy every month, come talk to us. We're there to not judge you, but to help you. So it's important that people know that.
So they can reach out to you, they could reach out to you.
Yeah.
And so if they wanted to have a sideline conversation, I can't imagine how busy you are, but if somebody needed to do that when they came in, is there a way that they could say,
Oh, yeah.
I need to have a conversation with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a private consult, and we'll go talk. It's easy.
Very good, very good. And what else, Carrie, do you want to share with the community? I know that I'm just thinking in my mind starts to wander in a million directions. So Dr. Elaine Dilbeck has been on here many times, and she is a psychologist that's in our local community now, operating out of McKaysville, and she's created several programs that are just different kinds of programs. One for those in the first responders and helping them deal with the issues and the traumas and the things that they experience, and PTSD and other things. You know, maybe there should be a support group, or is there one locally for those dealing with these types of addictions?
So yeah, the 12-step meetings are a big thing. There are several Alcoholics Anonymous meetings around. There's not as many Narcotics Anonymous meetings in this area. I wish there were more. That needs to be a thing. I know there are some here in Ellijay. There are several AA meetings around Blue Ridge.
And let me pause for a second, because Sherry Morris is in the studio. Sherry, AA meets at Fannin County Family Connection, right?
5 times a week, and Al-Anon twice a week.
5 times a week, and Al-Anon twice a week. So glad she's here as a resource. So yes, those groups are in Fannin County, and I'm sure that they're in Gilmore County as well, but they use the Fannin County Family Connection facility to have those meetings. So thank you, Sherry. Sorry to put you on the spot. That's what she's here for today.
One of my favorite things, though, was Celebrate Recovery. There are churches. There's one, I believe, here in Ellijay that has a Celebrate Recovery meeting, but I attended one at First Baptist Church in Blairsville. I believe they meet on Thursday nights. I'm not really sure. It's been a bit since I've been up there, because I work every Thursday now, so I don't get to go anymore. But Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered 12-step program, and so they incorporate worship and that kind of thing into the meetings, and it's really fantastic. They also have resources for all types of addictions and hang-ups in Celebrate Recovery. They have, if you have codependency issues, they have a small group that meets for that, and alcohol people can go and meet together, and narcotic people can go meet together, because you have more in common. And I like that aspect of those meetings, because you got to break out into the small groups and talk with people more closely that understood what you were going through and that kind of thing.
And do you share your story among your coworkers today? Were they part of this recovery process with you, or how open are you sharing on a regular basis? And we're just honored that you would share it here on this show.
I do share with my coworkers. At first, when I first went to work at my current employer, I didn't talk to anybody about it, because I didn't want them to immediately judge me. And so I thought, I've got to prove myself and show them that I know what I'm doing first, and then we'll go down that road. But once I'd been there for a few months, then I was very open, and I do share with everybody at work about what I went through. So if by sharing that I can help one person, that would make me very happy. So I've had several people in the past reach out to me on Facebook Messenger or give me a phone call, and say, hey, my daughter's struggling with addiction. She's in college, what would you recommend? Or, somebody said, hey, what treatment center did you go to? I think I'm going to need to go. I'm struggling with alcohol. So, I don't ever mind talking to anybody about those things or what I went through or anything. So.
And we've learned through this program that there are outpatient services through Highland Rivers Health or Georgia Mountains Health, or private practice like Blue Ridge Psychological Services with Dr. Rocky. He's been on this program. He'll have another doctor coming up next month to talk about ADHD and children's issues. But there's not a lot of inpatient. And it's been said that you have to go somewhere else for inpatient service.
It is. It's hard. I did my inpatient rehab at a facility called Focus Treatment Center in Chattanooga, and so I was there for the 28 days, and then I did intensive outpatient for 7 weeks after that. So I went twice a week, and went in during the day, was in the facility, kept going through the same classes and things that I had been through while I was an inpatient there, but I just did it 2 days a week. So.
And what is it they want you to take from all of that, those classes? And
they really teach you a lot about the science of addiction and how that it is a disease process. It's, you know, your people, I think sometimes people judge and say that addicts have a choice in the matter, that they choose to do these things, but that's not always the case. Some people, yes, they start out just as a recreational thing, but a lot of times, like in my case, it was not a choice. You know, I started out with legitimate pain, and so they teach you a lot about the science of how your brain tricks you and you know, wants that endorphin rush and that kind of thing, and it really is a disease.
And we want everyone to know from this program that it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to recover. It's okay to reach out. It's okay to seek resources. And thank you again for sharing that today.
Thank you for having me.
And we want to take a quick break. We're just about 8 minutes away from the end of our program, so stay with us. We'll be back with your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay, as we just said. We'll be right back.
Whether you're in the mood for chicken strips, a delicious burger, our classic banana split, or an upside-down thick blizzard treat, we've got you covered. Hot and fresh food every day, every time. And delicious DQ soft serve make the perfect pair at your favorite place. Not fast food, fan food fast. Your Blue Ridge, Ellijay, and Jasper Dairy Queens are your meet, eat, and treat headquarters.
Thank you for choosing DQ. How may I serve you?
This country was built on self-reliance. Our fathers and grandfathers knew when something was broken, they should know how to fix it. Here at Luttrell's Hardware, we believe in the old-fashioned way. We believe you shouldn't have to drive out of town, and you darn sure shouldn't have to do it twice. Most importantly, we believe our customers should be like family. So come see us here at Luttrell's on Highway 68 in Copper Hill. Let's roll up our sleeves and make this country great again.
ATC knows the internet is evolving, taking new twists and turns. As we add our input, make our choices, and follow the light that connects us all. It's quite a journey, one to experience with the fastest speeds available. Contact ATC, connect to the internet speed that suits your journey, and enjoy the ride.
Welcome back, everyone, to Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay. We have been telling you throughout this program that this is an initiative of Fannin County Family Connection and many supporting organizations who just want to let you know that it's okay to talk to others about your mental health struggles. And today we're talking about medications, we're talking about drugs and addiction and recovery and overcoming, just like Carrie has done today. And we want to close out the show. We have about 5 minutes left. And Suzanne wants to talk about the drug take-back program, because that's so important. Things can happen. We can have a surplus of medication in our home, and we need to get rid of that. So tell me about drug take-back.
So any medicines you have extra, you can take them to the sheriff's office in Fannin County and dispose of them properly. That's important. Don't flush your medicine. Take it to a proper disposal place where it can be disposed of and doesn't get into the environment.
And don't flush it down the toilet, just take it in, because I think in my case, I've had a couple surgeries and I haven't wanted the medication. I guess I've put it in the trash, I don't know, and that's not the right thing to do. So just the take back, and can they take it back to a pharmacy too, or no? No.
Just the sheriff's office.
Just the sheriff's office. They can take it back that way. And then we also want to talk about educating our children about what they need to know about medication. I know you may be coughing here.
I know, I'm trying not to.
That's okay. You rest just a second. Carrie, you had a story of a friend whose child just had an overdose of some medication, right?
Yes, she got into some of her medication and I guess was thinking it was candy or something, and I'm not sure how she got into it. I don't really know the whole story, but she did take a pretty big amount. They weren't real sure, I don't think, how much she actually took, and she had to stay in the hospital and be monitored to make sure she was okay. Fortunately, she was okay. But yes, children, I'm sure, confuse those things because they can look just like their candies. So.
That's right, and I've seen that on Facebook of warnings, especially around Halloween, of things to be careful and look out for. And you said that you're educating your child even as early as 2 years old about medicines versus candy.
Yes, and if you see a medicine, tell mommy and daddy don't pick it up, because they pick it up and they'll put it in their mouths. So.
All right. Well, we thank you both for being here today. We know that you're coughing there. It's okay. It's a little warm. You've been sick. You're getting over it. So we thank you both for coming and being a part of this conversation, because like Carrie, we've been saying throughout, is there's such a stigma that, we go to the doctor for most everything. Our headache, our body aches, whatever, we go, but we don't go for mental health. And so as a nurse, what would you say to that if somebody's struggling, saying, I don't really want anybody to know about my mental health struggles?
Definitely seek help for that. There's no embarrassment in it. There are professionals that are willing to help. I know a lot of people, don't want to have to medicate for their issues or whatever as far as mental health goes. But there are professionals that are willing to sit and listen to you, talk to you, give you techniques of dealing with anxiety, depression, whatever mental health issue you might be going through. That's something that I started with my treatment. I ended up going to counseling for a while, and that has been a tremendous help in my life. So I would tell anybody out there to seek that help if you feel like you need it. Talk to anybody, Don't keep it bottled up inside. Take care of your mental health, because if you are not well mentally, you can't be well physically and for everyone else. So.
And when our lives depend on our livelihood and earning our income, like you said before, your addiction at that time impacted the way that you performed on the job.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I became just an employee that was not the greatest, and that fed into the mental health stuff too. I would get depressed over that, and my job performance was critiqued a lot, and I pride myself on being good at my job and being able to take care of others, and so that was, that of course added to my mental health issues, just not feeling like I was performing like I should in my job. So it kind of snowballs. So the first step is to, stop that snowball from rolling down the hill and getting bigger. Seek help early,
And we're grateful that your employer realized something was wrong and opened up the dialogue to have a conversation.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's all it takes is for someone just to ask that initial question and can help save somebody's life.
I would encourage people that also, if you're worried about someone in your life that may be struggling with some issue, addiction or whatever, it's okay to approach them about it. Just do it, in a loving way. And usually 9 times out of 10, the person is going to be very accepting of it. Sometimes people get angry because they feel like they don't have a problem, but you might be the thing that stops that process. And so there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, Carrie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Suzanne, thank you for being here today. And we thank you for watching another episode of Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay. And we will be back here on Thursday at 3 o'clock for a continuation of this discussion on mental health and drug use, addiction and recovery. So we'll continue that Thursday. But thank you for watching. Take care.